Yes, welcome back to the Bray and Ethan podcast, episode 131, and there's no one sitting beside us, Ethan, which is a little bit weird.
It is. We're usually used to the guests either side of us, but doing something that we are following up with, I guess you could say, from the start of the year. So it is, I guess, uncharted territory, but at the same time, we've done this before this year.
Exactly. And of course, it is powered by Pegs. Download the Pegs app if you are a uni or TAFE student. Of course, the new student discount platform, which is an absolute game changer. All your favourite cafes, restaurants, retail outlets offering up to discounts of 40 to 50% off. Locals supporting locals. And Jai has been in contact with us over the last couple of days, Ethan. And there's some big news at Pegs. So we'll start off with this one. Question of the week, thanks to Pegs. You can receive yourself a little potential sling if it's that good. And we'll be picking that each week.
The better the question, the better your chances will be. I guess the creativity comes into it. You don't want to ask a question that everyone else is asking, so be creative.
It's got to be
that.
good. I think, and us and the guests will be deciding.
Yeah.
It'll
be tough. Week. It'll be tough. I reckon there'll be some selection criteria we'll have to probably go through each week, but
appropriate.
Yeah, appropriate.
But it was good.
Second to none.
Yeah.
Also on the 20th of July, $2 Cacini scoops and $2 Royale burgers from Royales in Northbridge, which will be sort of a week's time by the time this comes out.
Yeah, the 20th, which is next Saturday, the 20th of July. So get yourself to Royales Northbridge. That is a good place. I've been there a couple of times. It is good. $2. Is that unlimited, do we know? Or is it just one?
Not sure. If it's unlimited, it could be dangerous.
Oh, that is dangerous.
Either way, though, that is something that you need to get your hands on. And, of course, Hatlock is staying with us as well. 20% off, Brian Nathan 20 at hatlocker.com.au. You got the Saint to the DC, a bit of a Melbourne and Victorian flavour. And also a little bit of a partnership we're doing as well. Curtin's Enable Institute and the WA Footy Commission are partnering to create Field Ready Minds. So that's a health and wellbeing program for 15 to 19-year-old footy players. Feels right in our wheelhouse. So if you are 15 to 19 and play football, you can get involved in the program. You can also complete a survey to go into the draw to win a signed Fremantle Dockers Guernsey and 2 AFL tickets. I think that's a regular thing. And there's workshops as well. So Field Ready Minds, all the details will be in the episode description as well to their socials, their Instagram, but check out them.
You love a signed Freo jersey at the moment with the way they're going. They're absolutely flying compared to the Eagles.
They are. Yep. Simpson sacked, but we move forward.
Moved mutually. It wasn't sacked.
50-50.
Yeah, 50-50. But, of course, as you said, we're following up on some, I guess, predictions we made earlier in the year. On pretty much this exact same format of a show earlier on in the year, PSA Colts predictions. So we'll get things cracking underway now. Claremont, alphabetical order. I think we're doing these as well. So that's
we are.
Claremont
I just want to say as well off the top, you are spot on with a lot of these. Your fortune telling, your predictability is second to none.
I'll be honest, I copped some absolute shit from some people
get into that.
Not long after that episode, early in the waffle season, and I'm bang on, so thank you.
Yeah, and I'll probably be made to look like a fool, but that's all right. You can reflect. We can see why, I guess, I was wrong or why you were right in some of these. But yeah, Claremont, you had them top 3. I had them grand final. They're top of the ladder at the moment by 2 games. 12 players in the state squad speaks volumes of that.
I don't think that is any surprise at all, and especially with how much state side talent that they have. They've got 3 PSA schools really close to the club, and like with all those state players out over the state month, I guess, didn't faze them.
Yeah,
they had enough talent to fill those gaps.
Yeah, well, I think we can say that there's probably no excuses for them to not win the flag or go the whole way. To be honest, I'm not saying that's a given. They still have to do it, obviously, but some players, Hugh Boxall from Scotch, 32 on the weekend, coming back from state. Also had a couple of 20s in the state 18s, so his stocks have been boosted a bit. Silky player on the outside. Sully Moody's caught the eye as well. 5th for both tackles and disposals in the Colts comp. Yep. He's an overager coming from Scotch last year where he made the team of the year. They're so stacked, like Hale skipper Charlie Cotter. He was an emergency for the Colts game last week. Like he can't even get a game when obviously when the school holidays are on, which is quite unbelievable as well. Obviously, I think Lucas Ravenhill has been a point of difference as well. Reliable, averaging 2 goals a game this year in the Colts as well. So he's been a point of difference up forward as well. You know, like guys like Cody Angove, 22 and 3 on the weekend, just a luxury to have him, and Will Hayes, probably the best 1-2 punch small forwards in the comp as well. And I've got a bit of a call, and it's you know, it hasn't come out of, well, it probably has come a little bit out of nowhere if you're listening to this for the first time, but Hamish Davis from Claremont, State 18s. I reckon this might sound ridiculous. I reckon him and Nat Fyfe have genuine comparisons from under 18 level. Like, I'm not talking about Fyfe when he's in his prime winning Brownlows, but just the way they both mark the ball as high half forwards. I think Fyfe had like 34 and 4 in one game in the champs, which really, I guess, propelled him. But Davis had another 8 marks on the weekend. He's probably ready to break the comp open. You know, each game, I think he kicked goals in each game of the champs as well. And don't take that the wrong way in terms of, I don't want to put the mockers on him or anything. But yeah, I think there's some comparisons there. And I was speaking to an umpire on the weekend, Ryan Harrison, we can name names, who actually did a couple of the champs games in Perth. Yep. And I was talking to him on the weekend, and he reckons Hamish Davis is one that, like, from his point of view, being out there as an umpire, is probably one of 5 or 6 guys who, like, he thinks is pretty certain to be picked up at this stage. Okay. So
it's big raps.
Yep. But yeah, those are the players.
That's not anything confidential either, because there's no votes or anything the umpires do in champs anyway. So
you can.
Ryan's a great friend of the podcast. So
yeah, you can say who you think are good players, and
exactly.
Austin van der Strijf. Interesting, maybe he hasn't got the talk we expected at this stage of the year compared to like back end of last year, start of the year, but 27 and 26 consecutively. So I can watch this space for him as well. Overall, plenty of positives for Claremont. Their rucks as well. Aiden Riddle was just doing fine with 30 plus most weeks with hit outs, and Max Raw kicked 4 goals in the second champs game. He's playing a lot of reserves footy, so they're not really in need of him at the moment as well, with Riddle shouldering that load.
For sure, they're looking strong, Claremont, with obviously all that talent they can't even get in the side at the moment, which is crazy to think at a Colts level. We'll move on to East Freo. Now, we both said they'll be playing finals, and they currently sit in 6th. What was it? Just a game, half a game out at the moment from Perth, who sit in 5th, and they've got Peel Thunder this week, so Peel sitting on the bottom. So you'd probably think that that'd be an easy win for them, but obviously they've got to travel down to Peel for a home game.
Yeah, it's weird. The tough trip down there. So only 2 points behind Perth in 5th though. I think continuity's probably hurt them a bit, you know, with guys like Eastow, Perez Campbell, Kobe Austin being overagers. They can't break into the league side and are constantly flicking back between Colts and reserves. That, like, I guess somewhat hurts the makeup, like nothing on them, but hurts the makeup of their team to a degree. Declan Pauline's the leading possession getter in the comp by 14. Also leads tackles by 8 as well. So he's quite in and under. Almost like a little Caleb Sarong in there. Just does all the little work. I've called a couple of his games for streamer.
Not a bad name to be compared to.
Yeah, not a bad name. Him and Elijah Stockton, who has the 3rd most comp possessions, complement each other well because the different body size, like Stockton's that sort of big body, like a Paddy Cripps type. I guess the only negative for them, though, they've only kicked 7 goals for the year between them. So most of the sides of challenge, you need goal-kicking mids, I guess, as well. And it's weird because, like, the contrast between them struggling a little bit in the Colts is, not mainly, but the reason is because Aquinas having success in the PSA, and East Freo and Aquinas have a lot of players together. Like, Bailey Morgan makes them better when he's there, but he can only be better if they're feeding him the ball. Like, you know, worked up the ground a lot on the weekend in a weird game that it was where they started well and then faded. You know, they'd love him, Ashton Warner, Luke Urquhart around. Urquhart had 25 and 3 in round 2 the last time he played. But understandably, PSA does take priority, and coincidentally, they're the reason why Aquinas are top. So they're probably not complaining that much.
Yeah, for sure.
And then other players, like, watched a bit of Nomlatu, who's an underager. They're ruck, very rangy, 197 centimetres.
Underager and 197.
Yeah, like, he doesn't touch the ball a lot. Like, he doesn't need a lot of the ball, so to speak. But when he does, he's got, like, 30-plus hit-outs in a lot of games. Jake Bonnewell also had 10 marks recently in that formidable Sharks backline. So I don't think it's completely season over for them, but I guess it's just that continuity and availability, which they, probably have a little bit against them.
Yeah, for sure. It always is a little bit difficult when you're pretty close to a PSA school like Aquinas. We'll move on to the other East team, East Perth. We were both a bit 50-50 on East Perth this year. They're currently sitting 7th on the ladder. What have you made of their season so far?
Yeah, I think depth has probably been an issue. Like, they were leading Subi at quarter time before inaccuracy cost them. Adam Damasi's second most touches in the comp. Obviously, we spoke to him earlier in the year. You just know what you're going to get with him week in, week out. I think they've been trialling a bit of underage talent of late. That might be the way to go in the back half of the year to see how they go for 2025, what they're made of. Yeah. Interesting, they've got the most free kicks for them this year by over 20 and tackles too, most tackles for the comp.
Right.
So, yeah, I think what I made of them is
That's a weird stat.
They've been a bit patchy, I guess you could say. It is a weird stat.
Yeah.
Most free kicks for them. I mean, they're doing something right if they get they're getting the hands on the ball, you could say. But
yeah,
I think Andre Galoni stepped up when required. He played the last champs game and reminds me of sort of like an Oscar Hine-Baston type from last year of halfback. I guess Trinity guys like Cassidy, Trinder have been around the place, but anytime you're solely relying on your PSA reps, it'll be tough. So, I think probably East Perth, a little bit of matching where we thought they would be at the start of the year.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, we'll move on to Peel Thunder. Now, this has sort of caught us a bit by surprise. We both had them finishing up in the pointy end of the ladder, and you had them making the grand final. But they're sitting plumb last at the moment. But then you go back and look through their games in recent weeks. They'll be coming off the bye this week, which is always a bit of a concern. But they haven't been completely dominated. They're losing by, not even 20, 30 points. It's always close, but they just can't seem to run over those teams and get the result, get the 4 points.
Yeah, it's hard to put an exact reason why, Bo Allen going up to league potentially a little bit, but he's one player, although we know the calibre he is. But they've had good availability, like Roberts coming back from that state 18s, Becker, underager, who's very easy to spot, loves the long sleeves. The leadership group as well, Jakovic, Sanders, they've been there. And, Ty Kemp, he's a ruck who's moved into the top 20 for player ranking. So they've had a good year individually, like some of these guys. They were very unlucky to lose after the siren to Perth under controversial circumstances. They've as you said, they've lost a lot of games under that 2-3 goal margin, which unfortunately can be a recurring theme sometimes once it happens once or twice.
Yeah. And that's happened at AFL level a bit over recent years as well. So it's definitely not out of the ordinary.
Happens at all levels of footy, but the percentage is still higher than South Freo and East Perth, so it's not all doom and gloom despite their low ladder position. You'd love to see a Will York get some more support. He went back to HBL Lions during the bye, I believe, so where guys like Clay Hall, Brady Hoff come from, and Harvey.
Yep.
Jaden Fernesi could be that option to support him. Roberts thought he'd be an injection and a pleasant surprise coming back from the state 18s, which he has been, but he's probably been a slight bit down compared to the front half of the year. And probably one of the bigger positives from them is Darcy Peterson, who had a superb champ shutting down key forwards. He should be back, apparently, according to Adam Jones, from that injury, which is better than first thought. I think there might have been initial thought that he was done for the year.
Yeah.
Really would have been devastating for him, but I believe he'll come back in the second half of the year. So from their point of view, finals might be out of the question, but some continuity and some player availability, even though it's been decent, can improve as well.
Yeah, the worst thing coming from a good champs is spending the rest of the year out. So hopefully that is all good with Darcy there. We'll move on to Perth. You talk about that Perth Peel game with a goal after the siren. We'll talk about Perth. So you had them finishing 6th or 7th. I had them 3rd to 5th. They currently sit 5th, so I've currently got this one as well somehow. But having a fairly average year, it's fair to say, for Perth, getting those sort of important wins like that one down at Peel, and then obviously can't get over the line. They're currently sitting 4 and 6.
Yeah, you were a bit more optimistic on them than I were, but
I still had most of their talent from last year, so
it
was never all going to die away.
Well, yeah, I mean, they sit second in tackles, hit outs and marks, and the only other side, which is interesting, other than Claremont, to have 800 marks or more in the comp. We had a bit of concern how they'd cope with the departing 04 boys. That was probably the reason why I personally had them a bit lower. Devastating. They won the game after the siren, and then the week later they had the opposite to West Perth. They lost the game basically after the siren, so bit of contrast there. But they've had so many buys as well, like again this weekend too. And then I think there was a stage where they had over 20 days since they played between games because they had a couple buys. Their league team was versus the Eagles, and then they had state game bye. Like they've been quite unlucky.
Yeah.
But there's so much enthusiasm in their forward line. Like Robert Worrell almost kicked 30 goals to lead the comp. WA have some elite small forwards, but if they didn't, he'd probably be in the State 18s mix because his pressure from the first game that I saw to now is just off the chart. Like he looks like a completely different player. Yeah. And Kobe Evans in that forward line as well. Reminds me a little bit of a Caden Harper type from the 2021 crop. He's just a character, Kobe Evans. Crumbs the ball really well, reads it well. You know, he's been a bit inaccurate this year, but boy, does he not love a celebration in the champs, the front flip or the back flip, the flip, whichever one it was. He is someone to watch out for and adds a lot of spark to them. Cooper Moore and Preston Cherry Bales, coming over from South Freo for his couple games for Perth. They're all class. Moore's best game so far was on the weekend against East Freo, coming back from injury. Every time it just started through him, he was just so clean, clearance after clearance. Right from the middle, I think there's a question that's
there was
come
from
in.
Taya Chambers. Cooper Moore elite on return from injury.
Yeah, well, he was in the State 18s mix, obviously injury prone and that sort of thing, but you can see why he was probably earmarked before this year as one of our state's best players. So yeah, Mitch Keane is still doing his thing as well. In the middle, they'll lose Cherry Bales' explosiveness when he goes back to PSA. But, you know, Jacob Roberts, Liam Cooley, in that back line, opposite end of the ground, they've been generals right the way through. And, yeah, I'm very bullish on them. Like, I think they can come home with a wet sail, to be honest. Like, you only have to make the finals and then it's a whole new ball game. And if the current ladder position is anything to go by, they'll be there or around the mark at least.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we'll move on to South Freo. They mentioned Caden Harper. He's obviously made this move over to South Freo, doing some pretty good stuff in their league side at the moment. But we're both 50-50 on them, whether they can potentially make that jump up or whether they'll probably staying around the bottom half of the ladder in season 2024 and currently sitting 8th.
They are, yeah. I mean, as mentioned in the season preview, I think they have the best underagers, which I'm sticking by. But yeah, maybe just a year before their time, understandably. They were with Claremont for patches on the weekend, though. Like, they took it up to them during stages of the game. Fred Rodriguez, 16 years old, 23 and 4 marks versus Vic Metro, running around as a 16-year-old, did well against Country as well, hits the scoreboard. I'd be shocked if he wasn't one of, if not WA's best, highest ranked player in 2025, maybe alongside Blake Kelly. Because you only have to go back to guys like Cornelio and O'Meara doing that as a 16, 17-year-old. Yes, that was more sort of senior level, but yeah, he's a freak. High raps on him. Jackson Artemis, WA's MVP. We'll hopefully chat to him very soon as well. Yep. Couldn't ask for much more from him. But yeah, I think just a year beyond their time probably. Like Tom Bell, Toby Wan played the last champs game. Wan's work rate's high quality. Hudson Pivac, he was kicking 2s and 3s at the start of the year, 194 centimetres. He's a big boy who's had a flying start to the year. 194 centimetres, you know, I feel like that's almost 200 at Colts level, to be honest. Like, it's massive. Probably hasn't stopped growing. Mitch Gear has probably been their most consistent player as well. They're rarely having under 25 at one point earlier in the year. So South Freo, probably where we had them, but I think bigger and better things, to say the least, in 2025. And hopefully they can use the last, 6-7 rounds of the Colts season as a platform, as a stepping stone for what they'll be hoping is a really successful 2025.
Yeah, for sure. Now, we'll move on to Subiaco now, and I'm just scrolling through the fixtures because I'm trying to see when Claremont and Subiaco last played and when they're next going to be playing. They last played in, I think it was round 3. Or it might have been round 1 or 4. I was just having a look. Yeah, round 4, and they don't play each other till the last round in round 21, which is a bit of a shame because at the moment that looks like it is the matchup between, well, for the Colts competition this year. You had them top 3 or 4. I said grand final chance. I'm liking those chances again.
You're just spot on.
Well, I knew there was some talent like Charlie Burke last week, who we had on, of course, and of course Darcy Montgomery as well. knew they were going to be around, and it looks like it's working wonders for them.
Yeah, we'll probably exceed expectations, well, my own expectations in second spot. Credit to John Mansbridge, who's still relatively fresh to the coaching role.
Yep.
Their own goal was grand final minimum. Charlie Burke said that with us. That's their expectation. Grand final minimum. Probably the names we didn't mention at the start of the year were guys like Multari, McGilvray, Rickson, Ciano, Windsor, who's in the State 18s program, Henderson, that are taking this team forward. They're probably the next batch of players, the next wave. Like, we know about the stars and that sort of thing, like Malachi. But them, along with Claremont and West Perth, are the only teams to have multiple goal kickers inside the top 10 of goal kickers. So that's that
can convert.
That is impressive. They can convert. Where's Wally? I believe there's a question sent in about him as well. He's taller than you think as well. Like he's a small forward, but he's not in that sense. Like he's quite rangy. Another one who played in that last champs game is a 16-year-old, kicked a couple, Montgomery. Those guys have X Factor written all over them. There's a couple of commentators who love Darcy Montgomery, and I don't blame them. I think there's a firm belief as well that Champion and Burke will get a taste of league at some point. But the good thing for them is they'll be able to come back to Colts at the right time if they do play league, with the league team unlikely to feature in September as well. So we've covered on Wes. Well, I just want to see what that question was, because he likes sending in a question as well from time to time.
So this is Wesley Wally?
Yep.
Yep. That's the only one I can see. That was from Levi Morgan, 28.
Okay, yeah. Levi's playing futures at Subi.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Subiaco exceeds expectations. They're probably the one team that might be worrying Claremont the most.
Yeah, you're thinking if there's an underdog in grand final day, you'd think that would probably be Subiaco at this stage.
And as we've seen, like, Waffle W recently, like, grand final's a different ball game. Like, it doesn't even matter about ladder positions. Like, if anything, you'd probably prefer to be an underdog with a little bit less pressure.
Exactly. Looking back at that round 4 clash against Claremont got the wood over them by 32 points. But obviously that was a long, long time ago, the 20th of April. Doesn't seem that long ago, but in terms of a waffle season with only about 5 rounds to go, it is a long time ago, and they obviously don't meet up until the final round of the season, which will be no doubt a blockbuster there at... It'll be at Revo. So, no, it'll be at Leederville. Apologies. So it'll be at Sullivan Logistics Stadium in round 21. Move on to Swan Districts. We both had them finishing outside of the finals. Currently 4th. They had a tough game. They have a tough game against Claremont this week, and that'll probably see where they're really at.
Yeah, probably no better time in that sense. You had some feedback come your way about not rating Swans at the start of the year as well.
Yep. And they were saying they were 2-0, well, they've gone 8-4 since. So might be proving me wrong, but it's obviously going to be tough to beat Claremont and Subiaco in my eyes.
Yeah. I mean, probably guys like, Cotalesso around the place, that obviously helps. Martinson, Harvey, Hanson, McDonald, in the absence of Tommy Cathcart. Pretty fortunate to have these guys. Arguably the unluckiest in the comp to have not more of those guys in the 18s or playing in the 18s. So an even spread of player. Otis Harvey's responded really well of late to not making the state 18. There's obviously a lot of natural disappointment that would come from that. They haven't lost the first quarter since round 9 as well. So where they beat Subiaco anyway, so that stat in that game probably didn't matter. So they're really jumping out of the blocks early in games and starting well. I feel like someone like Blake Kelly's confidence would be sky high after versing older and top age players in the country, like guys from Vic Metro and that sort of thing. Then coming back to Colts when he's not at Guildford, like he had 35 on the weekend. I'm not saying you're going to come back down and think you're better than everyone else or anything, because Colts is still a high level of footy, but when you've played at that next level and you come back down, I feel like the confidence would only be naturally better.
Yeah, for sure. It's always... in a way, you could say following his brother's footsteps, but they believe Blake is the better of the two Kellys.
Yeah, well, Luke's doing really well so far. He kicked a nice goal on the weekend.
Yep, obviously won the reserves flag last year and then made the big step up to league this year and has been pretty consistently in that side as well since making his debut. So the two Kellys are doing their thing down there at Swan Districts. We'll move on to West Perth. Now, you had them wooden spooners.
I reckon this is the club of all. I mean, we made some blunders and we've been made to look silly so far in this season, this mid-season ep, but I reckon this is the one that probably makes us look like the biggest fool of all. Wooden spooner had them. You had them bottom 3 or 4 and they sit third. And a big reason why we said it is because we just didn't know how they'd cover for Cale Girine, but someone that's covered for him really well is Judd Marcello. Had ice in his veins at Mineral Resources Park, and I believe he's already started talking to AFL clubs, which someone has told me recently.
Right.
So, yeah, he's a nice key forward for them. Jack Wooden could be leading the Jack Clark medal, so had him for the wooden spoon, and Jack Wooden is the one proving...
You haven't heard some confidential news there, have you?
Or just someone who I know who knows him. I'm not saying he can certainly get drafted or anything because they speak to a lot of people and this process starts so early. But Jack Wooden, Jack Clark medal, I reckon as it stands, he's polled the highest coaches' votes 2 at the moment with 26, which is higher than anyone else.
Yeah.
By 5, I reckon him and Pauline will be neck and neck. They're batting really deep. Wriggle had a reserves debut last week, but he was out at the state 18s along with Trent Hiscock as that defensive pillar. Their spine's really impressive, so that's a reason why we are being made to look really stupid. Sam Swaddling, pivotal outside as well. The list goes on. Like I can keep going about players all day. Austin Chapman had some blinders, as has Tom Rook, back-to-back 21 touches. Good representation of the state 16s as well. So they just beat Vic Country and West Perth. So some players in there. They've got a healthy percentage of 124. And if they can get a top 3 finish, that double chance will be crucial for them because they've only lost 2 games at home and their record away more than suggests they don't fear playing anywhere else. Also had some whispers that Cale might get a league gig soon as well. But either way, I think West Perth are pretty well placed.
Yeah. For sure are. They have turned our predictions completely around, which is crazy to think.
I copped a little bit of feedback as well. They said that we are more than just a one-person team, and that's proving wonders.
Well, they would have been in 2022 when they made the grand final at Leederville. Well, they only had the one state player, I think, being Kane Bevan. I think he might have been the only one.
I think there was a couple like Griff Julian and Luke Michael were there, but Kane Bevan was probably the highest profile out of them.
It was just the one, and they clearly the club was just amazing that year. All 3 grades making the finals, and there's really to be honest, there's no real standouts in all. Just levels at West Perth. I feel like they're all team players, and there's no massive names like say at East Perth, Hamish Brayshaw or Angus Schumacher. They're all somewhat, just.
Measured, yeah. Well, they back their local talent in as well. Exactly. I think that's what we said last time.
Do a great job of it.
So, yeah.
All right, we'll move on to the PSA to finish up here, Ethan. You said Scotch will go for 4 or 5 in a row. I can't think off the top of my head. I think it's 5. And I said Aquinas would potentially make that jump up. And at the moment, they're 2 games clear of Scotch. They're a game clear of Hale, but also Hale have a game in hand as well. They've only played the 7 games so far with all the buys and whatnot. So, look, I think Hale could be the real surprise this year, if I'm honest.
Okay, well, I think
they've got a game in hand. Percentage isn't a worry in PSA. It's just games won. I think they could potentially be up there, Hale.
Yeah, well, I think
to finish.
It's a great prediction. You having Aquinas, with them being a game clear as well. I think Scotch, they haven't slid too much. Like I think people were thinking, they're going to have a complete drop off, but they're still on 20 points, and McTaggart, Boxall, etc. They're really coming into their own as well. So yeah, there's some big games coming up, as I said, and the PSA. Yeah, it's. I think we've had a couple of questions come in about it as well. I think,
but I'll quickly just go to this thing about Hale. So I think we might be up to round 11 this week coming, or not this week. I think the weekend of the 20th. I think is their first week back, and they have come up against Christchurch this next game, with Christchurch currently sitting on just the 1 win. So you'd think Hale would breeze over the top there. So that's another win to get back to level with Aquinas. Then you go down to their next game, if I can, and they come up against Trinity. So that'll be a somewhat tough game, especially at Trinity. So that's a 50-50 game. Aquinas have Guildford that week. So you'd think Aquinas would win that. And when it loads again, Hale then have Guildford, so you'd think that's a win. But then Aquinas still have to play Scotch in that second last round, and the last round of the year will be, when it loads, it's a bit slow, Hale come up against Scotch. So Scotch are actually, just quietly, the big I know, cloud sitting over the top of Aquinas and Hale at the moment.
Right in the middle, in the thick of it.
But of course, Scotch would get up and finish top, equal top in the same time as Hale and Aquinas finishing top as well. So it's going to be a real fascinating finish for the PSA season.
There's a question that's come through from Aquinas_Alco. I believe it's a fresh account that's just been made. 0 followers, 0 posts, 0 following. But anyway, it says top 10 PSA players this year. It says 3 forwards, 3 mids, 3 backs, and a ruck. Well, probably don't have time to go through all of that, but we'll answer it somewhat. Like, I think Charlie McKinley's probably been one of the best rucks from Aquinas. Yeah. Clancy Dennis probably down back. That just is a no-brainer. Christchurch. And then, Cherry Bale's number 1 ranked player in the comp, 40 touches, I think 3 or 4 times. Codalessa, Kelly, these mids are, everyone knows sort of already what they can do. Up forward, though, we spoke to him recently, Bailey Morgan, 70% efficiency up forward. I think that's superb. Like anytime above 70, in the AFL, I feel like 60% at this point is like really good. For 76%, that just if that's not the definition of reliable, I don't know what is.
It's 3 goals for 1 miss every time, which is crazy to think. But we don't have a heap of time about that. But there's this good question that came in from Judd Ingleton
at Trinity.
Yep. Discuss the structure of the PSA, how there are no finals. I don't think he's put that together the best way possible, but
appreciate the question.
Your finals opinion, should there be PSA finals?
Look, I'm a bit 50-50 on it. Like traditional, you're the best team all year, you finish top and that's it. And there's been a couple of times where like it has been a final in a way because it's like the last team, the last game is the winner. But I wouldn't mind seeing finals, but if they didn't change it, I wouldn't be totally against it. I think it would add another dynamic and a lot more excitement to it as well. Because it's like if you have a great year and finish second or equal top and miss out percentage, you have a chance to like reprieve yourself and prove yourself that you're the best team on the big stage. But I can more than understand why it's traditional and like the Premier League, where if you are the best team, you'll do it over the course of the season and you won't need finals to prove that. And
I think the only way that'll work is if they bring percentage into play and then just play the 2 top sides from that year in a one-off grand final the week after, because there's only, of course, the 7 teams. It might drop down to 6 in future years, everyone believes. So you can't really have a final series. But then also you want, star players, I guess, back playing waffle footy, so you don't want to take too much time out of, I guess, their waffle seasons.
And just a couple of players to mention before we finish up. From Christchurch, Max Hansen-Kanoy averaging over 118.3 ranking points at the start of the season. Impressive. He's at Claremont. Underage players represented WA at state level. Lucas Robinson, we talk about Hale being the surprise packet. Another one at state 16s level, 115.5 ranking points. Expect him to do wonders as his career develops. And a question from Taj Martin, 17. Thoughts on Cody Curtin? Dan Curtin's brother. Him and Clancy Dennis did exceptional. I feel like we say key position players don't grow on trees, but this year in the back line, the 07-born defenders, it's quite remarkable. And apparently Cody Curtin's already bigger than Dan Curtin. And I remember when Dan came in here, he was probably 195 centimetres. He was a giant. Big. And the fact that his brother's, not even eligible to be picked up until 2025 and he's bigger than him and he's not stopped growing, that is scary.
Yeah. So if you thought Dan Curtin was good, the second one could be even better.
Looks very composed as well, much like his brother.
Yeah.
The genes. Okay? The genes, the family genes.
It is the genes of Adder, and unfortunately we didn't get any of them. Well, that's just about going to do it for us, Ethan. It's been a jam-packed little discussion for about half an hour or so. But we'll have a quick look at that ladder as well for the Colts as it stands now before going into round number 15, obviously only the 2 games this week, Swan Districts, Claremont and East Fremantle and Peel. But having a look at the ladder, of course, Claremont's sit up on top. Just the one lost 10-1. Been a great start for them so far, almost a perfect start. Who have they lost to? Off the top of your head.
Very good question.
I cannot be bothered scrolling all the way back right now. Subiaco finished, currently second, 8-3. But then West Perth sits 7-3 with the draw, which is why they are 2 points behind. Swan Districts in 4th, 6-4. Boorloo or Perth, They're currently sitting 5th, 4 and 6 with the draw with West Perth. And then East Fremantle 4 and 7, Perth 3 and 8, South Fremantle 3 and 7, and Peel Thunder only 2 and 8. But like I said before, Peel 2 and 8 isn't a good representation of their season so far. I think they've been quite competitive. It's just they haven't been able to either play 4 quarters, or they've just, every side they've come up against has just been too good, and they haven't quite been good enough.
Yeah. Well, if there's anything I've taken out of this so far is your predictions have been a lot better than mine, and you're going to be spot on. I mean, there's things that can change from the rest of the year, but you're very on track to being on point with yours. Looking forward to seeing how the rest of the season plays out, and probably have to look back in the end of the season and just to see how much more we look silly, or I look silly from here on in. But looking forward to revisiting it in time.
It will be interesting indeed after that big grand final, I would assume. Would be when we do it.
Optus Stadium.
Yep. And of course, it is all powered by Pegs. Remember, the $2 burgers, the 20th of July at Royale's Northbridge. Royale Burgers Northbridge. And $2 Kikini scoops, Ethan.
This is a Saturday, by the way.
Yeah, it is. What are Kikini scoops?
It's a good question. Probably should do my research, but that's on a Saturday as well, so that'll work out well.
Oh, it's gelato. It's ice cream.
I thought it might have been ice cream or like cookies or something.
$2 gelato ice creams. And where were they? William Street in Perth, so just in Northbridge as well. So you can go to both and have a nice cheap night out. Going to be paying $4. So you
probably never be able to do that again.
Go on a Tinder date or something, or take your girlfriend down and you're paying $4. How good? Or $8 for the two of you.
It's just unheard of.
How good?
In these modern times.
Yeah, and of course, Hat Locker as well. Use code Bray and Ethan 20 for 20% off. And Field Ready Minds, I should say. Ethan, you can check the show notes for that. There's some more info there and how you can win tickets to the Freo games and also the signed jumper.
Great initiative with the workshops as well.
Yeah, so check that out. And if you're listening to Spotify, Apple, you can, of course, head over to YouTube as well, and vice versa. Subscribe, 5-star rating. We appreciate it a lot. Some exciting times coming up, Ethan.
Absolutely.
Can't wait. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week with another special guest.